In Unit 8, Part 3, we are talking about percent application of interest. Again, we're getting further into Chapter 7 in the textbook. There's probably a greater chance that you did not cover this last year. So if you have questions, make sure you ask. There is a lot of information in this part, just like in Part 1 and Part 2. So make sure you are keeping up and asking questions. So the first thing we're going to look at is finding a retail price. So a retail price is what you pay at the store. So when you go to the mall and buy clothing or go to the grocery store, you're paying the retail price. The retail price is an increase from the wholesale price of an item. So, or the markup, sorry. So the markup is that increase from wholesale to retail. So the store buys it at wholesale, you buy it from the store retail. The markup is the increase there. So what we're going to look at is how to find a new price when you're given the wholesale and the markup. Again, remember, markup means an increase, so we're going to be adding when we do a markup. So we did this a little bit in Part 2. I'm going to start with my original, which is the wholesale price, and then I'm going to add my markup. My markup is 105% of that wholesale price. So 18's wholesale, my markup's 105% of that 18. So I need to turn 105% into a decimal, which would be 1.05. So place it to the left, and I'll multiply that by 18. So I'll wind up with 18 plus 18.9. So my total, or my retail cost, is going to be $36.90. Again, you're looking for a price, so make sure you have a dollar sign, and prices always go, or dollar values always go 2 decimal places. So make sure your final problem looks like that. Your final answer looks like that. So again, when we do a markup, we're adding, so you can go ahead and do that example there. The next thing we're going to talk about is a discount. A discount is basically the opposite of a markup. So the discount is a decrease from the original price down to a sales price. So we added for markup. For discount, we're going to subtract. So my original price is $22. Now I'm going to subtract the discount, which is 25% of that $22. So I'm going to do 22 minus, I'm going to turn 25% into a decimal, so that's 0.25, and then multiply it by the 22. So I'll wind up with 22 minus 0.25 times 22 is 5.5. So my sales price would be $16.50. Again, it's a price, so I need a dollar sign. I need to go to 2 decimal places. So markup, I add, discount, I subtract. But you're doing it the same way. Original, and then the percentage of the original. So the next part is using sales tax and tip. So some people do this different ways, and I mean this in real life and in these math problems. So one way you can do it is to find a tax and add it to the bill and then tip based on that, or you can tip based off your actual bill. Now, the book shows it tipping on the original food bill, so that's how I'm going to do it on here. Again, this might not be how your parents do it. It's actually not how I do it either in real life, but I'm going to show you the way to do it in the book. So my total cost for my meal is going to be my food bill, which is $9, plus tax, which is 6% of the $9, plus the tip, which is 20% of the $9. Notice everywhere I say of, I'm putting a multiplication sign. So I have $9. I got to turn this 6% into a decimal, so 0.06 times 9 plus 0.2 times 9. So 9 plus 0.06 times 9 is 0.54, and 0.2 times 9 is 1.8. So now I can add all of this up, and I'll wind up with $11.34 as my total cost. So that's the food plus the sales tax, which is 6% of the food, plus the tip, which is 20%. And just add all of that. Number 2, of course, I'll leave for you. On the back side, now we're kind of working backwards. We want to find the original amount after there's been some sort of markup. So my retail price is equal to my original price plus 75% of my original price. Okay. So again, my retail price is, I don't know my original, so I put an X, and then it's 75% of that original price. I turn 75% into a decimal. So I'm doing X plus 0.75X. There's technically a 1 right here, so I can add these together and I get 1.75X. And then to solve for X, I'm going to divide both sides by 1.75. So my original price is going to be $8. Now, if you think about this, if I have a markup, if I mark up the price against the retail price, my original should be less. All right, so as a markup, so we're doing addition. I'm going to come over here. The next one is a sale price with the discount percent. So my sales price, $21, is equal to my original price, which I don't know. And since it's a discount, I'm subtracting the discount percent. So my sales price is 21. I didn't know my original, and I turned 40% into 0.4 because I turned it into a decimal. So again, this is technically a 1. So 1 minus 0.4 is going to give me 0.6. I can now divide both sides by 0.6. So I'll get X equals $35. Now if you think about this one also makes sense. My sale price was 21, which means my original price needed to be more. Okay, so this is where it can get confusing when we're working backwards here. So the next couple sections are all about interest. Interest is probably some of the most real-world stuff you'll do in math, but it also is probably some of the most difficult. So if you like, there's a bunch of definitions written here. If I was you, I would pause this video right now and just write down all of these definitions. So the first one is interest. Interest is the amount earned or paid for the use of money. So interest ties directly in with principal. Principal is the amount of money deposited or borrowed. So if I want to borrow money from the bank, they're not just going to have me pay back exactly what I borrowed. I'm going to have to pay back what I borrowed and interest is earned on it. So interest is a percent. Okay? Same way, if you put money into the bank, you're going to earn interest on it. You're not going to just get the exact same and take it out, hopefully. Hopefully you're going to earn interest so you'll make more money. Simple interest is interest that is earned or paid only on the principal. The opposite of simple is compound, which we'll talk about later. And then the annual interest rate is the percent of the principal earned or paid per year. Okay? So your interest rate is percent. Okay? I should add that. So if you look down here in red, it says finding simple interest. So the equation to find simple interest is I equals PRT. I stands for interest, so what you're trying to find. P is the principal, which is the amount of money either you borrow or you deposit. R is the annual interest rate, which is always a percent. And T is the time, the amount of time. We always put that in the years. And then the next one says the balance. That's just the principal plus the interest. So how much you deposited or borrowed plus the amount you made off of that or lost off of that. So let's look at a couple examples. Again, it's pretty confusing, but we'll go through it. Okay, so it says to find the interest and the balance of the account. So let's start with the interest. Interest, again, is PRT. So my interest equals the principal, which is 200, times the rate, which is 4%, times the time, which is 3 years. I need to turn the 4% into a decimal because I can't multiply percent. This becomes 0.04, and then times 3. So when I multiply 200 times 0.04 times 3, I wind up with $224. Or sorry, I wind up with $24. I'm getting ahead of myself. When I multiply those two together, I get $24. This $24 right here is my interest. Now it also asks for the balance. Remember, the balance is the principal plus the interest. So that's the $200 principal plus the $24 that was earned. So my balance is $224. So all of that is balance. Okay? If you come over here to the next one, I'm going to do some for you just because it has something that I didn't talk about. Again, we're going to start by finding the interest. The interest is principal times rate times time. So my principal is 1,200, my rate is 5%, and in time it says 18 months, which we'll talk about in a second. So I have 1,200, I need to turn 5% into a decimal, which is 0.05, and my time needs to be in years. So 18 months, I need to turn into years. So we need to turn 18 months into years. There's 12 months in a year, so if I do 18 divided by 12, I'll get 1.5. And then I can go ahead and multiply those out. When I multiply those three out, I wind up with $90. So that's the interest. And then remember to find the balance. I do the principal plus interest. So that's 1,200 principal plus 90. So I'll wind up $1,290 as my balance. Alright, again, this is tough stuff, so if you have questions, make sure you ask. Looking at the backside, we're going to use the same equations we just used. So in this next section, which if I just repeated that sentence, I apologize, someone's going to hear and correct me. We're going to use the equation to find missing parts. So we're using the equation A equals P plus PRT. That's our balance equation. We're using that. We're going to plug in what we know. So we know the A is 672. We know the P is 600. So that goes in two different places. We don't know the R, and we know the time is T. Remember that R is going to be a percent. So our final answer here is going to be a percent. So we work it out and solve for what we don't have. So I have 600 plus, if I do 600 times 6, I get 3,600. So I have 3,600x. Now it's a two-step equation. So I subtract 600 from both sides. So I'll get 72 equals 3,600x. My next step to solve for x would be to divide by 3,600, which when you plug in your calculator, I know it's going to look weird because you're going to get a decimal, but that's fine because remember we want to turn this into a percent. So 72 divided by 3,600 is 0.02, but I want to make that a percent. So my interest rate would be 2%. Right. I'm going to let you guys do your best on number 2 if you need help. Just let me know. Alright, and then the last one we're talking about is compound interest, which we said is the opposite of simple interest. So simple interest was just earned on the principal. Compound interest is earned on the principal and any previously earned interest. So here's your new equation for compound interest. So that's A equals P and in parentheses 1 plus R, and then T is an exponent. So it makes it a little bit more difficult. So I'll show you one, and then I'll let you try the other one. You're really doing all of the work in the calculator. You just have to set it up, and then the calculator does the work. So my principal is 300. 1 plus R is 3%, and T is 3 years. Now, remember, I can't do any work with percent, so I have to turn it into a decimal. So that's 1 plus 0.03, and then I can actually add that together. So I'll get 1.03 to the third. So now in your calculator, you're going to type in 1.03 to the third power first, work that out, and then multiply it by 300. So you'll get $327.81. If you have any questions how I got that, make sure you ask. Okay, if you don't know how to do this in the calculator, ask me, write it down. Alright, again, I apologize for the length, but that's it for part